Hello and welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie. This week we're doing books that feature grandparents because Ms. Ann, our youth librarian, is going to do a program called Grand Time Together on Thursday, September 24th. And I think she said 4 to 5 p.m. Come in with your grandparents or a special adult in your life, and you can do a craft, play some bingo, and have some fun to honor grandparents. So turn it to Jill for her first pick of a book featuring a grandmother, grandfather, grandparent.
My first one is Frederick Backman. My grandmother told me to tell you asked me to tell you she's sorry. It's a very big title.
It's a mouthful, that title.
Not that big of a book, but it's a big title. Elsa is 7 years old and different. Her grandmother is 77 years old and crazy, standing on the balcony firing paintball guns at men who want to talk about Jesus crazy. She's also Elsa's best and only friend. At night, Elsa takes refuge in her grandmother's stories in the land of Almost Awake, in the kingdom of Miami's, or where everybody is different and nobody needs to be normal. When Elsa's grandmother dies and leaves behind a series of letters apologizing to people she has wronged, Elsa's greatest adventure begins. Her grandmother's letters lead her to an apartment building full of drunks, monsters, attack dogs, and totally ordinary old crones. But also the truth about fairy tales and kingdoms, and a grandmother like no other, so... My grandmother asked me to tell you she's sorry.
I read that one. I read most of his books.
It was really good.
My first pick is a popular author, I think, Carolyn Brown, and this is The Sometime Sisters, published back in 2018. When they were growing up, Dana, Harper, and Tawny thought of themselves as sometime sisters. They connected only during the summer month they'd all spend at their grandmother's rustic lakeside resort in North Texas. But secrets started building, and 10 years have passed since they've all been together. In fact, they've rarely spoken, and it broke their grandmother's heart. Now she's gone, leaving Annie's place to her granddaughters. 12 cabins, a small house, a cafe, convenience store, and lots of family memories. It's where Dana, Harper, and Tawny once shared so many good times. They've returned, now sharing only hidden regrets, a guarded mistrust, and haunting guilt. But now in this healing summer place, the secrets that once drove them apart could bring them back together again. Especially when they discover that their grandmother may have been hiding something too. To overcome the past and find future happiness, these sometime sisters have one more chance to realize they are always family. So check out Carolyn Brown's The Sometime Sisters.
I feel like this author comes up a lot, Jojo Moyes. And this is The Horse Dancer, which was published in 2009. When Sarah's grandfather gives her a beautiful horse named Boo, hoping that one day she'll follow in his footsteps to join an elite French riding school away from their gritty London neighborhood, she quietly trains in city parks and alleys. But then her grandfather falls ill, and Sarah must juggle horsemanship with school and hospital visits. Natasha, a young lawyer, is reeling after her failed marriage. Her professional judgment is being questioned. Her new boyfriend is a letdown, and she's forced to share her house with a charismatic ex-husband. Yet when the willful 14-year-old Sarah lands in her path, Natasha decides to take the girl under her wing. But Sarah is keeping a secret will change the lives of everyone involved forever. So this has got horses and a grandfather. So
I didn't read that one. I read quite a few other books, but I haven't read that one.
I didn't even know of it.
My second pick is a book we may have talked about before. This is The Lost Book of Idana Moreau by Michael Zapata, published in 2020. It's the mesmerizing story of a Latin American science fiction writer and the lives her lost manuscript unite decades later in post-Katrina New Orleans. In 1929, in New Orleans, a Dominican immigrant named Idana Moreau writes a science fiction novel. The novel earns rave reviews, and she begins a sequel. Then she falls gravely ill. Just before she dies, she destroys the only copy of the manuscript. Decades later in Chicago, Saul Drower is cleaning out his dead grandfather's home when he discovers a mysterious manuscript written by none other than Ms. Moreau. With the help of his friend Javier, Saul tracks down an address for Idana's son in New Orleans. But as Hurricane Katrina strikes, they must head to the storm-ravaged city for answers. What results is a brilliantly layered masterpiece, an ode to home, storytelling, and the possibility of parallel worlds. So check out Michael Zapata's book.
That one's pretty cool. I feel like this one was recommended before too, but Kristen Higgins, Life and Other Inconveniences. This was published in 2019. Emma London never thought she had anything in common with her grandmother, Genevieve London. The regal old woman came from wealthy and bluest blood New England stock, but that didn't protect her from life's cruelest blows. The disappearance of Genevieve's young son, followed by the premature death of her husband, but Genevieve rose from those ashes of grief and built a fashion empire that was respected the world over, even when it meant neglecting her other son. When Emma's own mother died, her father abandoned her on his mother's footsteps. Genevieve took Emma in and reluctantly raised her until Emma got pregnant her senior year of high school. Genevieve kicked her out with nothing but the clothes on her back, but Emma took with her the most important London possession, the strength not to just survive, but to thrive. And indeed, Emma has built a wonderful life for herself and her teenage daughter, Riley. So what is Emma to do when Genevieve does the one thing Emma never expected of her, and after not speaking to her for nearly 2 decades, calls and asks for help? So, yeah, not a great relationship with those two, but...
My third pick is by Hugo Nebula Award-winning author T. Kingfisher, and this is The Twisted Ones, published in 2019. When Mouse's dad asks her to clean out her dead grandmother's home, she says yes. After all, how bad could that be? The answer, pretty bad. Grandma was a hoarder, and her house is stuffed with things that Mouse thinks is pretty much just useless rubbish. That would be horrific enough, but there's more. Mouse stumbles upon her step-grandfather's journal, which at first seems to be filled with nonsensical rants, until Mouse encounters some of the terrifying things he described for herself. Alone in the woods with her dog, Mouse finds herself face to face with a series of impossible terrors, because sometimes the things that go bump in the night are real, and they're looking for you. And if she doesn't face them head on, she just may not survive to tell the tale. This is actually author Ursula Vernon writing as T. Kingfisher in this book. So if you want more of a spooky one, check out The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher.
My next one is by Sandra Brown, Friction. Crawford Hunt wants his daughter back. Following the death of his wife 4 years ago, Crawford, a Texas Ranger, fell into a downward spiral that left him doing desk work rather than field work, and with his 5-year-old daughter Georgia in the custody of her grandparents. But Crawford has cleaned up his act, met all court-imposed requirements, and now the fate of his family lies with Judge Holly Spencer. Holly, ambitious and confident, temporarily occupies the bench of her recently deceased mentor. With an election upcoming, she must prove herself worthy of making her judgeship permanent. Every decision is high stakes. Despite Crawford's obvious love for his child and his commitment to being an ideal parent, Holly is wary of his checkered past. Her opinion of him is radically changed when the masked gunman barges into the courtroom during the custody hearing. Crawford reacts instinctually, saving Holly from a bullet. But his heroism soon takes on a taint of recklessness. The cloud over him grows even darker after he uncovers a horrifying truth about the courtroom gunman and realizes that the unknown person behind the shooting remains at large and a threat. Catching the real culprit becomes his personal fight for Crawford, but pursuing the killer in his customary die-hard fashion will jeopardize the chances of gaining custody of his daughter and further compromise Judge Holly Spencer, who needs protection not only from an assassin, but from Crawford himself and the forbidden attraction between them. Ooh. Little intrigue.
My fourth pick is What the Fireflies Knew by Kai Harris, and this was published this year. In the vein of Jasmine Ward's Savage the Bones or Sue Monk Kids, The Secret Life of Bees, it's a coming-of-age novel told from the perspective of an almost 11-year-old. After her father dies of an overdose and the debts incurred from his addiction cause the loss of the family home in Detroit, almost 11-year-old Kenyatta Bernice, known as KB, and her teenage sister Nia are sent by their overwhelmed mom to live with their estranged grandfather in Lansing. Over the course of a single sweltering summer, KB attempts to get her bearings in a world that has turned upside down. Her father was labeled a fiend, a mother whose smile no longer reaches her eyes, a sister who was once her best friend has crossed the threshold of adolescence and suddenly now wants nothing to do with her. The white kids across the street who are friendly, but only sometimes, and her grandfather who is grumpy and silent, all of them keeping secrets. Pinballing between resentment, abandonment, and loneliness, KB is forced to carve out a different identity for herself and find her own voice. As she examines the jagged pieces of her recently shattered world, she learns that while some truths cut deep, a new life and a new KB can be built from the shards. Capturing all the vulnerability, perceptiveness, and inquisitiveness of a young black girl on the cusp of puberty, this book perfectly inhabits that hazy space between childhood and adolescence, where everything that was once familiar develops a veneer of strangeness when seen through your newer, older eyes. Through KB's disillusionment and subsequent discovery of her own power, what the Fireflies knew reveals that heartbreaking but necessary component of growing up. The realization that loved ones can be flawed, sometimes significantly so, and that the perfect family we all dream of looks different up close, but they're still family. So check out What the Fireflies Knew by Kai Harris.
That's on my list to read. So this one is brand new, published in May 2022. It's the first in the Vega Family Love Stories series, A Proposal They Can't Refuse by Natalie Kana. Natalie Kana turns up the heat, humor, and heart in this debut rom-com about a Puerto Rican chef and an Irish-American whiskey distiller forced into a fake engagement by their scheming octogenarian grandfathers. Camila Vega is desperate to convince her family to update their Puerto Rican restaurant and enter into the fall foodie tour. With the gentrification of the Chicago neighborhood, it's only way to save the place. The fly in her mofango, her blackmailing abuela, says if she wants to change anything in his restaurant, she'll have to marry the one man she can't stand, his best friend's grandson.
Aww.
Liam Kane spent his decade working on his own family's distillery into a contender. Now he and his grandfather are on the verge of winning a national competition. Then Granda hits him with a 1-2 punch. He has cancer, and he has his heart set on seeing Liam married before it's too late. And Granda knows just the girl, Camila Vega. If they refuse, their grandfathers will sell the building that houses both their businesses. With their futures on the line, Camila and Liam plan to outfox the devious duo, faking an engagement until they both get what they want. But soon they find themselves tangled up in more than either of them bargained for. So this looks fun and cute.
It looks cute. My last pick is kind of a retro book, actually, and this is How to Sew a Button and Other Nifty Things Your Grandmother Knew by Erin Breed, published in 2009. Waste not, want not, with this guide to saving money, taking heart, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life. Nowadays, many of us outsource basic tasks. Food is instant, ready-made, and processed with unhealthy additives. Dry cleaners press our shirts, delivery guys bring us pizza, and yes, sometimes tailors even sew on our pesky buttons. But life can be much simpler, sweeter, and richer with a lot more fun, too. As your grandmother might say, now is not the time to be careless with your money. And it actually pays to learn how to do things yourself. So practical and empowering, this book collects the treasured wisdom of nanas, bubbies, and grandmas from all across the country, as well as modern-day experts, and shares more than 100 step-by-step essential tips for cooking, cleaning, gardening, and entertaining, including how to grow your own vegetables and stash your bounty for the winter, sweeten your day by making your own jam, use baking soda and vinegar to clean your house without all those toxic chemicals, roll your own pie crusts, fold a fitted sheet to crisp perfection, and waltz without stepping on anyone's toes. There's lots of cute stuff in here. Complete with helpful illustrations. They're look kind of retro. Here's the lady watering her garden in her dress. It's full of nostalgic charm. So How to Sew a Button and Other Nifty Things Your Grandmother Knew provides calm and comfort in uncertain times. By doing these things yourself with care and attention, you and your loved ones will feel the pleasing rewards of doing a job well done.
I love that pick. I need that book. I don't know how to do half that stuff.
When I was reading some of that, I'm like, yep, we do that. Yep.
Well, we hope we helped you find something to read if you're interested in reading about grandparents and their relationship with their grandchildren in different ways.
We hope to see you at the library on September 24th from 4 to 5. If you're youngsters with your grandparent or a grandparent-like figure, come on in and check out our program. Like, comment, share. We always love to hear from you. You know, you can find us on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel for the Kimberly Public Library. And we thank you for watching. So until next time, bye-bye. Bye.